So Nikolai, I've got you here in the home studio. It's the first time in the home studio, which is a great honour. Normally it's across the digital realm, and I don't know where you are, but you're just somewhere behind a blurry screen somewhere like that.
Yes.
But it's good. It's good to have you actually here. So, yeah, this is my home studio, and the purpose of the studio is basically a safe haven. So people like you can come, we can have a chat and reach out to the Adelaide set audience. But the Alzheimer's vaccine in particular, when that was announced on Legacy Me, did you find quite a positive feedback for yourself, or did you notice any difference of communications between government bodies or people at the university or anything like that? It didn't change anything?
No, unfortunately. I mean, obviously the hope is that, that particularly, health departments, universities, that you can guide them back away from animosity against an individual. Obviously, I piss them off big time.
Yeah.
Whatever reason. Maybe I'm just a really annoying sort of guy. I don't know. Or maybe I'm too passionate about my research. That's probably what they would say.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you can be too passionate about helping people, but they obviously have a different perspective. But in any event, I was hoping that, by refocusing them on, the good that we're doing with our research, these wonderful new treatments for cancer and Alzheimer's, they might just reflect for a minute and say, oh, actually, that's our core business too. Maybe, we're not so different to Nick, and maybe we can, reconcile or find an amicable solution. I mean, the shocking thing was that the university just doubled down, and they clearly signalled Flinders University not only hate Nick, they hate research, they hate cancer patients, they have no empathy. And you think, what are they? I thought that's what university's whole mission was to support, knowledge generation, to support research, and to educate. They are Flinders University have shown, and they had the opportunity with those articles, as you say, to change their mindset a little bit. Yeah. And they doubled down and said, no, we're going all out to destroy all of this. So what does that say about Flinders University?
Why is that the case? So let's just have a thought experiment here. If you could reconcile, what does that look like for you? Like say there was an opportunity to bring peace and kind of heal the wounds of the past. How is that possible? And why is it not possible right now? How is it possible, and why is it not possible?
Look, peace is always possible. Peace is the easiest thing on the planet.
Yeah.
Right? You just have to go, hey guys, let's find a truce, or everyone sort of pretends that peace is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
To stop fighting is the easiest thing for anyone to do, because fighting hurts. Yeah. You look at the wars that are being fought right now, right? Both sides are hurting.
Yeah.
Both sides are getting people killed, they're getting property destroyed, families affected, they're getting negative press, everyone's under pressure. You stop that, right? The pain stops. Mm. So we should stop pretending that it's fun to fight. It's not. It's painful. So then you have to ask, well, if one side just refuses to stop fighting, what's that normally drives?
But why is that happening?
Well, there's one reason alone. Yeah. There's one word.
What is that?
It applies probably to the wars in Eastern Europe as it applies to our battle with Flinders University, and it's called ego.
Ego, okay, I was going to say ego. So you think it's just like...
Ego is the monster or the elephant in the room.
Okay.
These guys, if they have a big enough ego, and we've seen it with leaders of different countries who prepared to sacrifice millions of people only for their personal ego, where there's no benefit whatsoever to anyone else on the planet. The only thing that's benefiting from all those millions of people being killed is their personal ego. So that's how powerful ego is. Ego is the biggest monster on the planet. And if you go to the leaders of Flinders University, there you'll see
Ego. So they need some.
Ego.
You're saying they need some
out of control.
They need some ayahuasca or something to get ego death.
Well, I think they need people, you know, who don't share this egomania to bring them under control. I mean, in other words, like, you know, if people had taken Hitler aside a few years earlier and roped him and said, "You're out of control,"
calm down a bit.
You know, the whole Second World War could have been avoided.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So yes, you don't need yes men. So
the core of the problem is a leader or a group of leaders like at Flinders who are ego mad.
And
then the next problem is they've surrounded themselves with yes men.
Yeah.
And they have got rid of progressively anyone who might challenge their ego.
Yep.
And so if you talk to any academic or professor at Flinders, if they're still there, they'll tell you, oh, look, they've got rid of, you know, it's not just you, they've got rid of everyone who was actually successful, who was questioning, who the students loved, right? Have all been got rid of.
Yeah.
And what's left?
Conformists.
Lots of conforming yes men, yes women, yes.
The they, thems.
Am I allowed to say yes they or
them?
Or
the G's, the
but
B's.
Do you know what I mean? But as long as they say yes, they can be anything. But unfortunately, generally, it means they're the least successful people. And I'm not saying that, you know, in a bad way, but you know, in science, you get Nobel Prizes because you challenge the orthodoxy.
Yeah.
Right. No one who just followed, you know, the crowd ever got a Nobel Prize.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
could it also be a fact of, like, say one of the leaders, I don't know any names, but just say one of them's like, I'm the person who gets to tell Nikolai, I'm the person who gets to shut down Nikolai. So it's like, for them, it's like they go to their lefty friends and say, oh, guess what I'm doing at work? I'm the person responsible for shutting down the lab, and I'm the biggest lefty. How cool am I? And they're like, yeah, you're so cool. Like, good on you. You got rid of that right-wing idiot. Like, you know, like, oh, yeah, he's, you know, like, you know.
Now you're putting me in the right wing and
I don't know,
talking about lefties. You know, I'm a little bit worried about here because I'm one of these people that, you know, could be anything.
I'm sorry to break it to you, Nikolai, but if you're not total left, you are righty. This is how it works now.
No.
If you don't believe in LGBTQ, you don't believe in equality, all these like if you don't believe in all the advanced left-leaning ideas, you're automatically a right-winger now. I was a lefty as well before the pandemic.
Yeah,
now I'm a righty as well.
I wouldn't say I'm left or right. I'm a humanist.
And
you know, which is a great starting point. Like you just operate on, you know, is this the right thing to do? Is this you know, going to help society or hinder it?
Yeah, see, that's that.
And you know, ascribing to left or right is
well. So I'm sorry to break it to you, but a lefty would call that righty. That's what it's like. Literally, you could literally say left-wing talk points from 10 years ago, and that's ultra-right-wing now. That's how bad it is in politics right now.
But that would mean there's no one left on the left, so that doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Because they can only get voted in if they carry the majority in the middle.
Yeah.
So if they're exiling everyone from the left and calling them right, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because then the left wouldn't exist.
Yeah, well, that's what's happening.
That's what's
happening right now. They're literally, it's called the left are eating themselves. It's literally the terminology. So the left are literally right now eating themselves, and you see the next 10 years, it's going to start swinging back to conservatism. That's why we're getting such a massive rush in Europe. France just had a ultra right-wing candidate win. The Netherlands now, Argentina, Poland, Hungary, and now America. Trump's going to win. Like, it's all turning right-wing again because the left are eating their own.
Yeah.
They're literally eating their own.
You know, it's best not to think just in simple terms like left or right. But because I think you know, they're good causes on the left and they're good causes on the right, and that's where we need to get away from this very polarized politics.
So have you always had that?
Which we've seen, like the in the US, the polarization of politics is insane.
So have you always had that mindset then for yourself, like growing up? Have you always, like, were you a little bit of a commie when you were a kid and you eventually got did you ever...
No, I was the opposite probably. I probably more right wing as a kid, and then as a young adult actually went left, then maybe went back right. The biggest mistake I ever made in my life, I voted for Kevin Rudd. like disaster. Absolute disaster. Like I thought, oh no, I've been too far right for too long. This guy seems like he's sort of okay. Oh my God, right? Never again.
Get him out of here.
I mean, that tells you the nature of my politics. I'm a swinging voter.
Yeah.
Like if
if
you've had John Howard and he's been there too long, and they're getting a bit cocky and overconfident, you go, hey, it's time we maybe put someone else there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, often that's a bad mistake, as I mentioned, because if the guys were there that long and doing a good job, don't get complacent, because the other guys can wreck it within the space of 12 months.
Yeah.
So you've had 12 years of stability, and you say, oh yeah, look,
no war.
The economy's doing well. Let's teach these guys a bit of a lesson. They're a bit arrogant. Let's put the other guys in. The other guys come in and destroy everything. Yeah. And then you go, oh my God, America. Why did I do that? But, you need swinging voters. And that's the other thing. Is everyone should be comfortable to be, because uncertainty is what keeps politicians honest.
Yeah.
If politicians know they're going to win, they become lousy politicians.
That's right.
They become self-serving.
Overconfident.
So we need lots of swinging voters.
You hear that? Start swinging clubs.
Yeah, that's right. Those of you on the right, occasionally vote for the guy on the left, just to teach them all a lesson.
Those on the left,
and those on the left do the opposite, and keep them guessing.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, we would have much better politics in Australia today if more people were of that mindset. Don't get trapped into being trapped on the left or the right. That's why I like that. I like the sort of.
You know what? That's the first time I've heard this in a long time. So I'm happy you said this. That's interesting, because most people are just like either really like right wing, or really really left wing, and that's why the Adelaide said, like on my bio, is a left with a dash of right. Is the catchphrase. Like we're left but with a dash of right. It's like you can have both. You don't need just black tea. You can have a bit of milk in there as well. Why not?
But also, then the truth is always in the middle.
Yeah,
we can't have a civil society unless we live in the middle.
The nuance.
We can't have extremists. We can't live under extremists. You can't live under extreme capitalism. You can't live under extreme communism. I mean, those systems all failed.
Yeah, the
systems that have survived and thrived have been systems that have learnt to have a blend, a mix, and sit somewhere in the middle. That's how. I think society has to work.
Yeah.
And then just shift a little, If you get it wrong, like you're always looking for that perfect balance, but there is no perfect balance. So you have to sort of, swing back and forward a little bit.
So for you right now, where are you personally left with, like, your feelings towards, like, the establishment of Flinders University? Do you still like hold pride in your heart and look back fondly of those memories at Flinders, or have the people in leadership ruin that for you? Like, do you still look at Flinders and go, that's a great university, or is it like, how sour is it for you? Well,
I mean, it's in fact, the fact it was such a great university until it was destroyed. And I'll point out, these people who are doing this are very new, not just to Flinders University, but to South Australia.
Oh, okay. So
they're imports.
They're not even Aussies.
No, they're imports.
Oh, so it could be
from outside South Australia.
Oh, okay. So they're like Victoria, Sydney, that kind of vibe as well.
Yeah, and so they're career administrators.
Okay. So it's kind of like
and that's dangerous, because career administrators can come in, do a terrible job, mess everything up, and then they'll go off to a higher paying job on the East Coast, and leave the mess behind. And we've seen that in our health sector, because, we've had, 15 CEOs, I think, in the health system here in South Australia, probably in I've been here 20 years. So about one every 2 years or so. And they've all come from interstate, made a mess, and then gone to another state again, created a mess again. And so you have this travelling tribe of
roustabouts.
Well, of administrators.
Was it always like that? Has the university always, like, let's talk about universities now. Like, let's talk about the fundamental errors of university. So, one, let's touch on the cultural aspects of university. Okay. And so you've mentioned the swinging door of employment for leaders is a source of an issue because, one, you don't even have South Aussies doing it, so they don't understand the culture of Adelaide, they don't understand the people. They're just coming from Melbourne, big city, or Sydney, big city. They don't understand that Adelaide's a bit more chilled out. People actually care about their local stuff here, because in Melbourne, Sydney, it's not supporting locals not such a big deal. And Adelaide, supporting locals is a very big Adelaide thing. I'm not sure if you noticed. Like, we're very big.
I have noticed.
Yeah. We're very big on that. So is it that kind of thing that you've noticed? And has Flinders ever had like really good leaders from your time there? Like, or has it always been this way? Like people coming in and out, kept coming out.
No. So it's changed dramatically.
So it's very recent. This change, like these type
I would
of changes.
say in the last 10 years.
Okay. And is it just Flinders, or is Uni SA and Uni Adelaide also having a similar
Look, I think they've got their own. I don't want to speak about their problems because I haven't worked directly
so you don't
there
know firsthand,
so it'd be better to talk to someone there, but my understanding is they do have similar problems, and of course they are in the process of apparently being merged,
they're about to,
which interesting where that leaves Flinders, because it will be up way down on the rankings compared to a merged Uni SA Adelaide Uni. But no, I think what's happened is, and again you have to look at history tells you everything. So what has happened is that universities have gone from being sort of government-funded educational bastions of the community, all right? Which, because every state, their universities were like their prized assets, because that's where all the professionals came from. Do you know what I mean? So every state loved its university. They funded it. The federal government recognised how important university were, and they funded them. And that model was sort of progressively broken apart. To be frank, by the right. To say no, look, we're sick of funding universities. Let's make them look for their own money. If they can find foreign students and things, let them, make money out of that, and then we'll have to subsidise them less. All right, typical right idea. Okay, less government support, make them look after themselves a bit better. All right, sounds good on principle, but what happens then? So, because the university is now becoming more and more focused on money generation, and some would say for its existence. Right. So they move away from the people who were previously running them, who had grown up under this model that education was, essential to a civil society, that it was the bedrock of the state, and therefore, it wasn't something that you tried to profit from. It was just something you had to have and nurture. So that were the old leaders of the universities. The great leaders often were there for 20, 30, 40 years.
And there's a point you have to
so
pay.
they gave a continuity, and then they would hand over to someone else. So as we changed to the model imposed by the right, that universities were businesses.
What year was this? Did this happen?
So this happened around 2000.
Okay,
and going forward, because the funding has progressively been pulled away by the right, all right? So forcing more and more of this model. And then Labor sort of almost have accepted and perpetuated it. They certainly haven't reversed it. And so what we then had is the universities going, okay, if we have to make money here to survive, we need to not employ those, old academic farts who love research, people like Nick who don't care about money but, want to put all their effort into good education and good research, right? We've got to get rid of those guys. And we got to bring in some financial guys, right? Some guys who are ruthless and can sack all the staff and basically reduce the head count, can dumb down the education to the absolute bare minimum that's needed, can bring in millions of foreign students and fleece them for as much money as they can. And so we've seen that transformation where the people running the universities, and again, this is not just unique to Flinders. It's obviously a model. I'm aware of the actual people, but this is happening all around Australia, where the whole concept of a university has been destroyed. And unfortunately, because I know George may have a little bit of a right leaning.
That's all right.
This is a problem created by the right,
so
not by the left.
Was it a particular leader, or was it ubiquitous with all the states? Were all the states kind of doing this kind of thing, or was it something more?
No, it was at a federal level, because most of the university funding actually, like most funding of everything, in reality comes from the federal government.
Yeah.
It was certainly led by a succession of Liberal, Labor, National Party governments. But as I say, Labor really didn't. I think, haven't really tried to reverse it or stop it, and arguably have even perpetuated it. But as a consequence, we now have short-termism is the name of the game. We have people who are running universities who education is probably of the least interest to them of anything. They're fixated on the bottom line and can they make more dollars. These people are now on multi-million-dollar salaries. I don't know whether you realised it, George, but
at universities,
all the university vice chancellors, which is the equivalent of a CEO, they argued that the universities, say Flinders might have 25,000 students, it might have a turnover of $1 billion a year. They said, but that's equivalent to a top 200 company in Australia. They have a similar turnover to that, and those CEOs are being paid $3, $4, $5 million a year. Well, we're running a business of the same size now. We need to be paid the same salary. And so all the vice chancellors of all the top state universities are now in multi-million-dollar salaries with millions of dollars of bonuses on top of that. I mean, I'm not joking. You can look it up. It's public information now. I think, the median is sitting around 1.52 million a year.
Wow.
And as I say, the top ones, well in excess of that. So the whole mindset is money driven. Is money driven from the top down, and that has corrupted the whole of.
And this has happened quite quickly. It's like a decade or two.
I'm sure you go back to salaries. Yeah. Of the leaders of universities 10, 15 years ago, they're not going to be in the multi-millions. Certainly not for somewhere like Flinders University or Adelaide University. I mean, people would have been horrified. I think 15 years ago, if they'd learnt that was the sort of salary you're proposing, but that's now the norm.
Wow.
So the whole environment has changed, and you can see how maybe someone like myself, who's been around a long time, who really values education and research and believes we need standards, that the students deserve a good education, and they shouldn't be fleeced for that education.
Yeah.
We run at odds with a guy on multi-million-dollar salary trying to extract every last cent by exploiting everything within the university to maximise the bottom line. I mean, it's a totally different environment, and people like me just obviously don't fit.
So is there places around the world where universities still maintain good philosophy, good approach to how they run things, or is this a phenomenon that's happening worldwide? Are all universities suffering from this money-hungry kind of attitude? And by the way, guys, if you're live, don't be afraid to ask questions. We've got Nikolai Petrovsky here, and he's live. Make sure you ask some questions because he'll be happy to answer them. But what's happening? Is this a worldwide phenomenon, or is this just an Australia thing that you've noticed? You talk to other colleagues across the pond, and have they mentioned similar things?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of these things do permeate out through the West. Rarely are these things in isolation. So the same trends occur elsewhere. Again, because I'm not personally, at those universities, I can't speak to. I know that a lot of my academic colleagues from the US, from Europe, they complain about similar problems, but maybe in the US, the heads of the universities have been paid, these corporate salaries for a long time. So maybe they're more stable in their model.
Yeah.
Whereas this has really just been a new thing in Australia that we've moved in this direction. I don't think the other universities are as dependent on foreign students as we are. I think Australian universities probably make more money out of foreign students for their size than any other universities in the world. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
So that means they're much more dependent on foreign students than other universities around the world. So, the question is it a sustainable model, and is it the best model, and is it going to deliver the best education? And do you want to go to a university who's more interested in money than the quality of your education?
It's crazy to think that not that long ago, university was free.
Exactly. It was free. It was free for me. I mean,
I'm paying a lot of money.
I was a bit shocked when they brought in HECS because my generation had not had to pay to go to university. I think thanks to Whitlam. I mean, again, that was a great initiative of the left. So on this conversation, the left actually are getting more ticks than the right. Just note, but
makes sense.
I think they've lost a few of those ticks more recently. But
so what's the solution of if you're going to talk young people out there and even oldies? How do we stop this, or how do we what's the first steps that we need to take, in your opinion, to try and fix all this or navigate all this to fix the university issues?
Well, I mean, ultimately the customer's always right. So, you need to vote with your feet.
Yep.
So if you see a university gone rogue, don't enroll there. Would be the first thing. Really do your research, and there's plenty of choice out there. Make sure that you pick a university that not only is the closest to your home, but that is the most committed to delivering a good education.
So do we have those universities?
And has a good culture
in Australia? Do we still have
I think again, as I say, these influences across the board, but they're certainly universities that prize research.
Yeah.
Now Flinders has demonstrated that it's the lowest of the low priority within Flinders. They were prepared to destroy research.
Yeah.
That wasn't even costing them money.
Yeah.
I mean that is the lowest of the low. I think the East Coast universities would look at that with just total horror, because they still prize research. Yes, they have foreign students and they like the money they generate, but they still believe that their reputation, where they rank on the world scale, is driven by their research, not by how much money they make off foreign students. So if you look at the University of Sydney, the ANU, University of Melbourne, where I did my PhD, they still understand that. I think what's happened here is they've missed the whole point.
Yeah.
That although yes, it's good to make money, the way people see you is the quality of your research output.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the quality of your graduates.
So I asked a question, sorry. So we got panned AUX. How is the research at the University of Adelaide ?
Look, I think the University of Adelaide, to be honest, does a better job of their research than Flinders. And Adelaide University is been around a lot longer. Yeah. I think in its early days, Flinders absolutely creamed University of Adelaide.
Really?
As a very young university,
that's cool.
They became rapidly world famous, not just for their medical curricula, which was a whole new way of thinking about teaching medicine, but they did some phenomenal research in reproductive health and other areas, which was world class.
Wow.
And you ask, well, how did that happen? And the answer is it was fascinating. When they started Flinders, now it's about 60 years ago, they brought a whole lot of young, aspiring academics, who couldn't become a professor. They were too young, or there was too many people in Melbourne and Sydney above them, so they were sort of frustrated, young but ambitious people, and so because Flinders couldn't attract top professors, who was going to go to this new university that had just been created, so they were able to recruit these people, and this whole young generation came in who were very innovative, and they unleashed all of that energy, which is the thing. Young people, have a lot of creativity and energy, but society often suppresses it. And by creating a new university, they were actually able to unlock all that creativity. And so for 40 years, they lived off that and built a phenomenal reputation. Unfortunately, all those people have now retired and left. And they've, Flinders has now reverted to being an oppressive sort of hierarchical corporate structure that suppresses innovation. And I'm sure, if anyone had a bright idea and was hoping to get support and encouragement, it's probably not going to happen at Flinders University, unfortunately, because that's not their model, is, innovation, not in their rule book.
Someone actually asked a question. Here we go. The interest charge on HEX debt is astronomical. I have 2 degrees now in my motherhood, part-time work error, where I now earn less than my debt. Can I just not pay my Flinders part of my debt? They said.
Probably. As I understand it, HEX, they take it out of your income if you earn over a certain income, but if you don't, and you're not planning to, you never repay it, and then I guess when you die, it dies with you.
Go to your family, okay.
But you hear terrible stories in the US of people who've run up millions of dollars of debt, because there you have to pay the full amount.
They come after you, and they come after your family. They come after your friends.
So again, I'm not an expert on HEX, but I can tell you, I'm not sure why. Why do you have to have a fee for education? It worked for free for years. 20 or 30 years.
What broke it? And that's
what broke it, and has it improved since they introduced HEX? I would say no. Most people who've been around the system that long will tell you it's only got worse. So HEX hasn't improved the quality of education in Australia. So maybe someone should experiment. Maybe for those lefties out there, right? Get rid of it again.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you a question, right? If you become like the dean, I don't know, the head of Flinders University, like you have a magic wand and you could change Flinders University, what are some changes you would make immediately?
I would embrace change.
Yep. So what does that look like?
Innovation. Like it's being open to experiment. So it means, throwing out the rule book. Trying different things. Support people who have interesting but unorthodox ideas. I remember when I was a young researcher, my biggest breakthrough in my research career was that I sort of got my specialist degree, and I'd got my PhD, and I'd moved to Canberra to work at the hospital there, and as a clinician, but I wanted to do research, but I was frustrated because I couldn't break into the Australian funding for research, because it's very closed shop.
Yeah.
And so I decided, and I'm not even sure why, that I would apply for a US government grant. And this was just after 9/11 and the anthrax attack. So the Bush told the NIH they had to put more money into vaccine research. And so I had some ideas in that area. So I employed a guy actually who was more senior than I to help write a grant. Which was an unorthodox thing to do. So I actually employed a grant writer, because I knew he'd worked with the NIH and had a lot more knowledge than I did about maybe what they'd want. So I invested. Actually, I think it cost me $30,000 or $40,000.
Oh wow!
Which back in
That's a lot of money
2002, that was probably
cash.
like $200,000 now. And so I was a junior researcher.
Wow!
And I actually invested that
of your own pocket,
pay
or did
someone.
you have to get that money from investors and stuff? Like, how did you organize?
No, I think it was from my own pocket, or as a clinician, we had private practice, so we I was able to generate income. So, but anyway, I invested it, and then I heard nothing for 2 years. So I thought, okay, I'm blown. Fine. I tried, and everyone had told me, look, that's just the stupidest idea we've ever heard, right? Why if you can't get funding in Australia, why the hell would the US, who've never heard of you, give you a cent? That doesn't make any sense. So all the scientists, senior scientists in Australia, when they heard about that I'd done this, would just go, well, you're an idiot. Fine. And then 2 years later, I get this email saying, your money's all ready for you to collect. This was like...
This Ethiopian king.
And this was like $2.5 million US, which at the time was,
how did it come? Did it come
3 or 4 million Australian dollars? I mean, typical grant in Australia at the time was about $200,000. Oh, wow. Right? So and this is like 4 million. And it's a one-line email just saying, yeah, look, we
have your money.
Yeah, we just need your signature and the money's yours. Or whatever.
Wow.
So the first thing is this some sort of crazy hoax?
Yeah,
it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get on the phone because I thought I have to find out what the hell's going on here.
But actually, when you got the email, when you first saw the email, what was your initial...
Yeah, I thought it was a hoax.
You were like, this is...
Yeah, absolutely. It's like winning Tats Lotto. In fact, I know a few people who've won Nobel Prizes, and they told me that what happened was that they're getting these phone calls through their secretary, and they were refusing to take the call because the secretary's going, oh, it's a Nobel committee, want to speak to you. And they're going, piss off. Yeah, that's my bloody colleagues doing the usual hoax and everything. And so apparently this is quite normal for the Nobel Committee that the secretary, the committee has to make, just keep ringing and ringing and ringing until they finally convince these people to take the call, right, to learn that they've won the Nobel Prize, because none of them ever believe it's for real and they all think it's a hoax.
That's so funny.
And true story from the guy who won. So, it does happen. So in any event, I thought it was a hoax, and so I immediately flew over to Washington to meet these guys. Like, who's crazy enough to give me this, and is it real? And they were surprised to see me, but said, "Oh, it's lovely that no one we give money to ever comes to visit us in person." After that, they loved me and they kept showering me with more and more grants because, who's this Australian that actually comes to talk to us?
That's great.
These Americans are greedy. They just take the check and we never hear from them. But in any event, I mean, what I did was completely unorthodox on every count. I paid someone to write a grant. Never happened in Australia. There's a bit more of that now. They're professional grant writers, but back then that was unheard of. You always wrote your own grant. And two, I took an opportunity and thought, after 9/11, maybe the US is, what have I got to lose? Let's give it a shot. And so what I learned is being unorthodox and backing unorthodox is what pays off in life. It's not the orthodox things you did, it's the unorthodox things. Same with our cancer vaccine, same with our Alzheimer's vaccine, you name it. Everything had its origins in a completely unorthodox approach that didn't make a lot of sense to the experts around me when I said, look, this is what we're going to try and we've got nothing to lose. And they go, oh, no, look, everyone's tried cancer vaccines. That's never going to, what are you doing that's special? You go, well, there's a few things, but...
So you're going to be almost radical in a sense with your actions. You're going to just take risks, take chances, follow your heart.
Well, be in tune with yourself. Because a lot of it is intuition.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
you intuitively, everyone's telling you, look, this is not going to work. This is crazy, but you have your own intuition.
Yeah,
and so
you can listen to
be guided by your intuition,
and you feel your intuition quite a bit, because some people don't have intuition. They've lost their intuition as they got old. They've numbed themselves away. So do you still feel that intuition now, like even now with your own life? Like have you ever shut your intuition off for a little bit and just like closed it, or have you always been very like lead by intuition in all your works?
Well, I guess the time, maybe the Kevin Rudd episode is where I should have listened to my intuition. I'm sure my intuition was saying don't vote for Kevin Rudd. Look, I think if you talk to the scientists in my lab, who are all very smart guys in their own right, I mean, they actually trust my intuition. So they'll say, look, if Nick senses something or, sees something in the data, he's never wrong. Mm. Do you know what I mean? And they'll tell other people that, like, don't challenge this guy. Like, if that's what he's saying, it mightn't be obvious, but inevitably it pays off. So I think, we need to foster our intuition, listen to our intuition, and build our intuition. We definitely shouldn't suppress it, because when you do is when you make mistakes.
I think that's what happened during the pandemic as well. A lot of people I've had conversations with is like, a lot of people did have intuition to, like, for example, not take the vaccine, the mRNA vaccines, right? A lot of them had an intuition about it, and they went against their own intuition in that moment, and that has been.
It's very hard. It's very hard. Like you're faced.
It was
with enormous pressure. And intuition is such a ethereal thing. It's so easy to shut down your intuition.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you can do it in an instant.
Yeah.
Because it's not like intuition's a powerful force that makes you do things.
Yeah. It's subtle.
It's so subtle.
Yeah.
And yet I think people terribly regret not listening to their intuition. And I know, I mean, when I haven't listened to it, all the worst decisions I've ever made were against my intuition, but because everyone said, no, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And hence with mRNA, my intuition just told me, actually, and I talked to my very senior scientist who's brilliant, who trained in mRNA and gene signaling and everything. I asked for his. I said, what's your intuition? His intuition said, my intuition's not good about this one. He then went off and actually had an mRNA and had a bad reaction to it. But again, under a lot of pressure, but not from me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Actually, speaking about that, this is important because a lot of people have been asking. It's been quite a while now. It's been a few years. Has any more data surfaced? We saw the Alzheimer's thing, right? Has there been more data, or is there any, like, there's a lot of people who have, like, 90% of the population has taken mRNA. Is there stuff that they should know, like, that from what you've heard from colleagues or other world-leading experts or more study, like, clinical trials that you've seen? Like, what should these people know who have, been affected or have not been affected, but they're concerned? They want, like, what's the update, basically, of where we're at? If you're allowed to speak, you don't have to, but some people might want to know, because
No, I look at it. It's a difficult place to be in. It's a bit like if you've been exposed to radiation or something.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Yeah.
For the rest of your life, like, you know what I mean?
Some people, yeah.
And so you can't reverse what you've done.
Okay, so there's no reversing of mRNA.
No, don't listen to Peter McCulloch.
Okay.
Essentially, once it's done, it's done.
Okay.
At least as it stands today, right? There's no little monsters you can put in that can chew it all up. We don't even really understand what it's doing, how long it's there, where it is. All of those things remain unknown. And so the idea you can reverse it is just speculation, but there's no evidence for it.
Okay.
So most people, you hope, like most people who smoke cigarettes don't get cancer.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's one of the, we try to pretend that everyone who smokes will get cancer, but it's not what happens. Obviously, a significant percentage of people who smoke get cancer.
But not everyone. Not 100%.
Well, way off 100%.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have been stopped hundreds of years ago. You know what I mean? Like, so we're talking a tiny percentage of people who are more susceptible to a toxin.
Yeah.
Get those toxic effects. Same with alcohol. Same with all toxins.
Yeah.
So if you were to think about, and again, I'm not trying to use words, but if you think of mRNA as a toxin, even if it's a toxin, there'll only be the people who are most susceptible that might get a serious problem.
Yep.
And then others might get a mild problem, and then a lot of people might get no problem.
Yeah.
I guess every drug is a toxin.
Yeah.
When we think about it. Aspirin kills people.
Yeah.
Right?
Aspirin.
Why is it kill? Yeah, aspirin kills people.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Damn.
If you take aspirin under 50 years of age, it's more likely to kill you than to actually stop a fatal blood clot.
I've never taken aspirin again.
And so no, when they with aspirin, and this is taking it chronically, they found that if you gave it to people over 60. Right, taking a daily aspirin, then it reduced their risk of a blood clot, like a heart attack or a stroke. And so they recommended aspirin. Yeah. But then they said, okay, well, if it applies to those older people, what about, people between 50 and 60? They found more people died of stomach ulcer bleeding, from aspirin, than it prevented strokes or heart attacks. Jeez. So it killed more people than it saved. So suddenly they stopped recommending aspirin for younger people. Okay. So there's a drug that everyone thinks is innocuous, that's a safe drug and everything, but it's not. Mm. It actually is, if you take it chronically as a younger person, it will kill you. Yeah. Or but again, it won't kill everybody. It just kills like 1% or 0.1%, but that's still too many when it's not saving any lives. So you have to think about, even a new technology like mRNA, it's again all about probabilities. It's not saying, 1 billion people have taken an mRNA vaccine, they're all going to die of cancer or something. That is not what... So say you shouldn't think of it that way.
So you say you had someone, someone, they've had 3 shots, right? They've had 2 of their first shots and then 1 booster. What... but they're concerned. They went to hospital, had an issue, but the doctor said, it was something else. But they got the intuition's like, no, it must have been this, because I've never been to hospital before. This is weird, really strange. Is there any advice that you can give them, or is it kind of like, too bad, kind of like this is, you just have to like run the gauntlet? Like it's there's any like sort of, I wouldn't say healing, but is there any sort of precautions you can take to kind of, lessen the effects of what's happened, or is it still unclear? Like, do we have no data on this, basically?
No, I mean, it's if you have a known side effect, say you have myocarditis, then that's caused by mRNA. Yeah. Any scientist going to get out there or argue opposite, they should be in trouble, right? Because there's just overwhelming evidence.
Yeah, it's clear now.
You just can't. It's incontroversial. It shouldn't. And yet you still will have someone say, "Oh, I'm not sure it's proven," but there's always someone who's left of field. But, So say you had myocarditis. Can you do anything about it? No.
No. Okay.
Right. You deal with the consequences. Now, myocarditis causes permanent heart scarring.
Okay.
Right. You live with that. Will that get worse as you get older?
Maybe.
Quite possibly, because that's what happens to people who have other forms of myocarditis, like viral myocarditis. Unfortunately, once you've damaged an organ like the heart or the brain, it never recovers. Yeah. And, if it's enough damage, it will worsen over time, and eventually you'll feel the effect of that. Yeah. Even if you don't feel the effect today. So you might, have heart failure in 20 years. That's the outcome of viral myocarditis. Yep. You know what I mean?
So it's by case then, really.
But it's not reversible. So even if you have viral myocarditis and your heart's badly damaged, they just tell you, maybe in 10 or 20 years you might need a heart transplant. So but we can't. But there's nothing we can. There's no drugs that are going to change that outcome, and we don't know the outcome until it happens. But if it comes to the point where you need a heart transplant, well, hopefully we can give you a heart transplant. So, this is the difficulty, because you don't want people to be fearful.
Yeah.
If you can't do anything about it, what you learn is worrying about something that you can't fix or you can't control. It's just going to make you live a shorter life.
Yeah, the stress.
And a less pleasant life because you're stressed. So if you can't change it, don't stress about it.
Just live the life you can. But I guess what?
Yeah, put it to back of mind.
Ignore it. But my only thing is, the reason why I ask these questions is I generally just don't know, and I hear things, and you hear about people who are like, I can heal you. You can take this once a day and you'll heal, right? But what I want people at home to get is, this happened to you, and if you're holding on to some sort of hope that you can reverse it with some magical pill or something like that, then you're kind of fooling yourself. And that anger you have for what has been done to you needs to be, that energy needs to be put into something. You can't just sit there and let them do this to you. Like, there has to be some sort of creative outlet to this. If it's political, if it's social, if it's cultural, it's with your family, it's with your friends, with education. There has to be. You have to take this stress, let's call it, and
externalize it. Yeah. That's the best way. And I think there was I was watching on 7 the other night. There was a program,
a panel
on COVID.
Yeah.
Where they had a lot of people who had obviously been injured by the vaccines, having an opportunity for the first time to have a voice, and you could see they felt better, having been able to tell the audience or tell the world of their experience, because the first time they were being listened to, whereas up till then they'd all been told to shut up. The vaccine's 100% safe and effective, and there's absolutely no side effects, and you're a nutcase. And that's dreadful. That should never have happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrific that health authorities were the culprits, deliberately, falsely messaging that anyone who thought they'd had a side effect was a nutter.
Yeah.
That's what they were communicating. And those people then got, ostracized by their family, by their friends, and treated as a nutter.
Yeah.
Because their health authorities basically were telling them, if someone's saying they've got a vaccine side effect from mRNA, they're a nutter.
They're lying.
So treat them as a nutter. And can you imagine having a real side effect? So your health is damaged, you're feeling dreadful, and then everyone's turning on you. I mean, it's horrific.
I have friends who end up in hospital. I had a friend who became paralyzed for like a day and had to go to hospital. And then you're like, what's wrong with you? He's like, oh, and this person loved like the vaccine. I'm like, all for it. And then they got paralyzed for like 6 hours, and it was straight after their booster shot. But then this person had to like almost reject their own ideology. Like it wasn't comprehensible for them to understand how this is even a thing. Think about what that does to you, like stress-wise, spiritually.
No, absolutely.
Like on a psychological level, the damage for that alone. Don't worry about the vaccines. Imagine the psychological damage. How much illness that causes, how mental health issues that causes as well.
No, and I think that's what the health authorities need to be held accountable for. And
how's that going to be? Because I keep hearing this, the need to be held accountable. How can there be accountability? Like where? Like how did the Nuremberg Code? That was a direct effect of what, World War II, right?
Yep. Yeah. German war crimes. Yeah.
So why does it need to be a German war crime for accountability? Like why can't this be like where is the accountability now? And why aren't health experts or other health people like asking for this? Like,
well, they're all part of it.
Okay, so you think that everyone's complicit in this?
Well, they were. I mean, all my colleagues, so they were the people giving all the false messaging on behalf of the health department. Certainly, none of them questioned it publicly. I think, apart from me, and and we all know what happens there. Yeah. So, I think that unfortunately, and probably in Germany it was the same. Most people were guilty of at least being complacent or being silent.
Yeah.
And the same happened during the pandemic here. And, I was listening to that Channel 7 broadcast, and, the parents of the young comedian who had the AstraZeneca and died 10 days later, And then when they talked about it to their friends, they became ostracised and called anti-vaxxers because they'd lost their perfectly healthy daughter to what was absolutely clearly, a known side effect of that vaccine. And she had all the risk categories. She was a young woman, and, they were the ones who were dropping dead from AstraZeneca. And the fact that those parents had not only lost a daughter, but in their grief were being attacked
now they're crazy as well.
By everyone. I mean, how would that feel? It doesn't bear thinking about.
Yeah.
And the fact that the authorities, drove that behaviour, encouraged that behaviour, and the medical professionals encouraged, and it's inexcusable. And we need a Royal Commission. The answer is we need all of this. The public need to see all of it. They saw a tiny snippet on that program. I can tell you, the problem is 1,000,000 times worse than that.
Yeah.
They need to hear all the stories from all those people, and then they need to bring on and in front of the Royal Commission, because they can subpoena, and they can get the Chief Medical Officer and force her to sit down in front of these people and explain her actions and tell us how that's excusable to victimise the people who are the victims.
Yeah.
No civil society should ever allow that. And to have chief health officers and, the people leading the community encouraging that behaviour, completely inexcusable. And I'll say that to their face. And that's why they don't like me.
So how come there's no system at, like, say for the example, the universities, how come there's no system that's been put in place to mitigate this? So
there's no accountability.
That's what I'm saying. Why isn't there like some sort of process at the universities where, say for example, say this is a hypothetical world where pandemic hit, mRNA was proposed, and you're like, hey, I feel uncomfortable about that. I want to go through the process. I'll call the process VIX. There's the VIX process where I'm allowed to speak as an academic publicly how I actually don't like this, and maybe we should do some have a civil discourse or a vote on this, and then the university basically creates content to see the public can now witness, and they go, oh, okay, maybe we should think double about this. How come there's nothing like that in this world? Like, why is there no whistleblower, university whistleblower academic freedom platform for people? Has that ever been a thing in universities, or is that some sort of crazy concept?
No, I mean, universities have policies of academic freedom. Flinders University have one. The trouble is they don't follow it.
Okay.
And then, how do you make them follow it? How do you make a university follow its own policy? Well, you complain to the Vice-Chancellor. But if he's the guy who's not following the policy, well, then you complain to the Chancellor, the University Council, which is like the university board.
Yeah.
When they do nothing and are happy not to follow the policy, where do you go?
The high courts.
No. You talk to your politicians. They say, no, we're powerless. The university is an autonomous body. It's not part of the government, even though they give it all the money. You potentially can go to the courts, because what I was fascinated about at Flinders University is they have a policy, and but there's no enforceability. But the only sort of legislated enforceable that you can actually criminally convict is the University Council individual members under the legislation that the government created to create Flinders University. It said if a university councillor doesn't behave in a fair and honest manner, they are guilty of a criminal offence.
Really?
And can go to jail.
Oh my God.
So they're the only guys who can go to jail are the University Council. So that's where the buck has to stop. And maybe we need to have some university councillors jailed for criminal conduct in allowing universities to breach these policies, which means that they're not acting fairly and honestly, and they have to take the fall for it. And maybe then universities would start to behave. But until either a chancellor or a member of a university council or the whole council get a criminal conviction against them, nothing is going to change.
Well, why can't the people of South Australia call for councillors to go to jail.
Well, yeah, exactly. So,
Like,
normally it's the
at
police
least.
prosecutor, so you're back with your politicians.
Okay.
So, the way the law is structured, that,
So a civilian...
civilians can take civil actions,
Yeah.
right? But criminal actions are reserved to the police and the police prosecutor. So even if someone does something criminally, right, you can't necessarily prosecute them and put them in jail.
Okay.
You have to refer it to the Director of Public Prosecutions. If they politically, because of their political masters, go, no, we're not going to, those guys on the University Council are way too influential, and the government don't want us to pursue this, then it gets shut down.
Well, that's
and I mean, there are rare examples where in that situation, there technically is a recourse for a civilian to sort of take on a criminal case that the criminal prosecutors themselves won't take on because they say corrupt.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of that, but it's a tough road to go down. And where do you find all the resources, the money to do what should be done by, the Director of Public Prosecutions? It's not something that an individual would have the resources to do. So you need an organisation to do that.
Well, that sounds pretty easy. Like, if you have enough people who understand this, and enough people online who understand this and write enough letters and spam the hell out of politicians or maybe the right people.
Don't say spam. No, you shouldn't do that. I think that's probably a criminal offence under the left and the Labor Party new legislation.
Well, you know what I mean.
But they're allowed to intensely lobby.
I was talking about the
and flood, and you're allowed to flood.
Yeah.
But you aren't allowed to break or to spam.
You
Do you know what I
can't eat
mean?
ham. I was talking about the meat, by the way. The spam meat.
Exactly.
I love that meat.
But in any event, I agree. I think overwhelming demonstrations of support are what count. And if you write 1,000 letters is not enough, the answer is you need 10,000. 10,000. There is a number. At which the whole system collapses.
Okay, right? That's good.
No, because if you can show all the voters in the country are with you, right? What politician is going to go, no, I'm still going to screw these guys over,
Yeah.
Because they just count the votes.
Yeah.
So, but if you only send 100 letters, they're going, I won by a margin of 10,000 votes.
Well, there you go.
But you suddenly get 11,000 letters coming in and they're starting to go, oh, this is getting a bit dicky. I mean, that was my margin, maybe I shouldn't be annoyed. Maybe I should do something about this. So,
put some councils
in jail. The thing is, just because your first letter doesn't hit the mark, don't stop right. I can tell you that there is a number of letters, emails that will break every politician's back.
Yeah.
And once the politicians are forced to act, the system acts.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If the politicians decide, the Director of Public Prosecution should look at Flinders Council and have they committed criminal offences, just the very act of the politicians asking the DPP to look into it, guess what? The council might suddenly start behaving fairly and honestly. Do you know what I mean?
That seems...
So you don't actually have to have the prosecution to achieve the objective. But if the system clearly is tolerating criminal conduct, the criminal conduct will never stop.
So that could be a solution to academic freedom then.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's good.
Because, if academic freedom is at the heart of the university's policy and it's the council's duty to enforce the policies, they are not acting honestly and fairly if they are not honouring or forcing the university to honour the policy. We all know what fair and honest means, don't we?
Yeah. Okay.
If you have a policy and you're not making people follow it, you're not acting fairly and honestly. It's the words are simple.
Yeah.
But the penalties on that council, there's a reason the legislators made it a criminal offence. Like, why did they do that? I was reading the legislation going, God, wow.
Yeah.
No, the Vice-Chancellor's not criminally liable.
Just the council.
It's just the university council.
That's pretty good to know.
Who are probably earning the lowest salaries. I imagine they earn a stipend.
Wait, so the councillors or the vice
No, the council. So all the councillors
they're
are
the ones
personally liable.
Wow. Oh, okay. I thought it was at the top dot.
And the chancellor, who's the head of the council, right? All personally liable if they don't act fairly and honestly. Okay. And again, there must have been some very smart legislators in South Australia when they were forming Flinders University that says the buck has to stop.
That's good.
With these guys. And I don't think they're doing their job. If they're not doing their job, they're not acting fairly and honestly. The legislation says that that's a criminal offence.
Okay, so that's the law, and that's legislation.
Yeah, it's legislation. It's pretty black and white.
Well, there you go, guys.
Maybe get a lawyer on to dissect out the Flinders University Act and tell us.
Well, I'm just thinking for myself personally now, like, if I want to cause a bit of a storm, I can just get all the Adelaide Set people to come on board and make up some noise and
ask why isn't the DPP investigating?
I'm not saying we want to put people in jail. I'm just saying
investigate.
We want to investigate like academic freedom, because it's not just Flinders, it's also the University of Adelaide now with Dr. Joanna Howe. She's constantly after investigation because of her academic freedom being put under threat because some crazy lunatics are emailing her people, just complaints. Like, it could be anyone. That's the thing. It could be some scumbag on the street who's got nothing better to do with their time, who's obsessed with one of the professors maybe, and wants to just destroy their career. Like, they're obsessed with destroying careers. Like, that's their
that's the woke agenda. Let's be honest. It takes one complaint.
Because it gives them
purpose. Somehow you can get 100,000 complaints going in about the Vice Chancellor of Flinders University and nothing happens.
Yeah.
But a single complaint
from the woke
about one of the professors, and they'll sack them like there and then on the spot. I mean, again, double standards.
Yeah.
And so I think the community need to rise up and
that's good. So we've got rising up, the university system structure. What else? What else are some key issues that need to be addressed? That you think the universities are like? What other areas of the universities currently doing? You reckon?
Look, I think they're not supporting the right people. They're supporting the yes men. They're supporting the people who agree with the policy of churning numbers, of lowering standards.
Yeah. And
anyone who speaks out against that, and I think there's Manuel Gruber at the University of Sydney spoke out against the lowering of academic standards. Terminated the next day. Like, no recourse. Like, how dare you? All he was trying to do is say, students the standards should be kept high.
Yeah.
So I would have thought everyone would agree with that. But of course that breaks their business model. Like, the lower the standard, the more passes, the more people come back the next year, the more, foreign students, the more money we make.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So put a high standard and you actually filter. You'll have less students passing, so less students going forward. You'll have better students, but the numbers might shrink a little bit. So, these business guys are saying, no, we want standards to be, as low as they can possibly go, so that everyone keeps paying. Because after all, foreign students don't come for the education, they come for the permanent residence.
Yeah.
Right? They want the tick
that
allows them to become an Australian citizen.
Yeah. Escape.
And so, they're not worried about the quality of the education. That's not their primary.
And did you notice in your time equality in educational drop? Like, did you notice?
Oh yeah. No,
it was very stark or very quick, or was it kind of slowly?
Oh, it's been over 20 years. It's just been going down and down and down and down.
This is like, you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to. Would you say that, like, the medical doctor or the medical professionals of today don't have the same level of education as they did 20 years ago?
No. So what you learn is that, and it doesn't apply to all parts of the university maybe, but if you take the brightest people, the top 5% or whatever, it almost doesn't matter what education you give them.
Oh, 1 second, sorry. Oh. Hello, I am glad to have joined this live. I am a student of Flinders University and currently lodging a complaint against the course coordinator and certain topic coordinator. So there's people already rioting in the chat here. Thank you for your statement, Simply. And they asked a question. I can relate to this as a domestic student. Simply Hastastic, can you please stay in contact because we have some more complaining to do. We're going to be the Karens now. It's our turn to complain.
But no, so look, I think that, there are a whole lot of factors driving this.
Yep.
But I think community engagement's the only thing that can turn it around. And again, the alumni of a university. So, you think, how many people have gone to Flinders over the last 30 years? That's amazing. That's
a lot of people, yeah.
Well, it's probably like, I don't know, 20, 30% of South Australia.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
I mean, because, Flinders hasn't been around forever, and it's not as big as the other two. But that is an enormous force. If those alumni want to see their university's reputation restored, they could lobby to remove the vice-chancellor or the council or reform it. They have that power because ultimately they are South Australian society.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it was interesting. I got an email recently from interstate senior academic, and he copied a letter written by his wife, who's a Flinders alumni, who'd just been approached to donate money to Flinders, and they're trying to raise money for, I think, cancer. And she'd written back saying, well, I normally would give you money, but given that you're destroying this cancer research, I really can't see that it makes a lot of sense to give you the money you're asking for.
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
And so I think if all the alumni, again, refused, at least temporarily to give them money for their campaigns, that will hit their bottom line. And given they're so money grubbing, maybe that will have more impact than 1 million letters.
Yeah.
Is 1,000 people saying, as alumni, no, you're not getting my donation this year until you fix yourself and reform your process.
So let's have a look. Councillors of... How many people are normally in the university councillor group?
There's probably about 8 or 10. Oh, here we go.
Council members. John... Am I allowed to say these names out loud? I don't know.
Well, it's public information.
Yeah. John Hood is a councillor. Professor Colin J. Sterling, Elizabeth Perry, Douglas Goiter, Brenda Wilson, Sharon Wilson, Professor Christopher Key, Professor Amanda Muller, Kat Walsh, Kim Cheetah, Liana Little, Benjamin Grillett, Abhishek Jan, Matt Johnson, Lucinda Hoodson. So these people are the governing body of. Yeah. These are the councillors.
So they are like the board. If it was a company, it would be a board.
Oh, they've got young people in there and people crazy.
Well, so I think they have representatives from the student body and again they're meant to be a representative.
So tell me, this kid could go to jail for misconduct.
Unfortunately, that's
so
what the legislation says.
That's so bad. Okay, well, this is
so it's no laughing matter. I mean,
it's crazy though because no one knows these laws and no one knows because the thing is.
Yeah, I'm sure they haven't read the legislation.
I'm sure they probably don't even know.
Created Flinders University. You would think they'd be given a copy of that legislation, given what it says, on joining the board. But I suspect they aren't, and so they may be completely oblivious to this right now.
That's good.
But I would advise them to read the Flinders University Act.
Yeah,
because it's pretty clear cut.
Well, because it's important for the Adelaide Set followers to know this because a lot of them I've been asking, how do we we don't want cancer research to be destroyed. We don't want it might be you for now, but what about the future? What about in 50 years' time? There's another promising professor that's.
What do you mean 50 years' time? I've heard of, 5 in the last 6 months or so.
Well, there you go.
Who are also being either
there you go.
Forced out or in the process of being forced
because they're
out.
Too...
because they just have an opinion or... I mean, sometimes it's not clear. Maybe they just doing too much research and not enough, time in front of the junior students.
Yeah.
Because, again, at the university, yes, the students have to be taught. But if you've got a famous professor, pulling in multi-million-dollar grants and, trying to cure diseases, as some of these professors who they've pushed out have, you don't expect those people to be doing 20 hours a week of teaching.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or if they are teaching, they'll be training PhD students and giving a few lectures, and then, normally that's how a university works. But I think increasingly under their model, they want their professors even to do more and more contact hours, so they can reduce the workforce, so they can, make more profit.
Okay.
In order to pay their vice chancellor. So, but it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It works in companies. The CEO of a company is allowed to pare back their workforce to make more profit because, the shareholders expect that. That's the only reason for a company to exist.
Yeah.
A university does not exist to make money, or it shouldn't.
Yeah.
It should exist because it's essential to provide education and research for the community. It should be owned by the state, by the people.
Yeah.
And it should be run by the people for the people.
Yeah. Right?
It should not be run as a commercial business to make money, to pay high salaries to the guys running it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
It should literally it should almost be like a spiritual entity, like somewhat like the church has, like for example, the church would have it doesn't have to pay tax, right?
Yes.
Neither
does the university.
Okay, so
it's in the same. It's in the same category.
What the hell? They don't have to pay taxes. Oh god, that means they don't have to pay prop. They won't have to. Oh my, there's so many. There is actually so much issues to discuss. Look, one thing I'm getting out of this conversation tonight is there is avenues to go down to keep people accountable, especially these people here. These counsellors should be held accountable, and if they understand the law, then they should know that misconduct can ultimately have them as criminals. Like these people can become... All these people right now, allegedly, may be, could be doing something wrong. And I'm not saying they have, but they could maybe be doing something wrong. And that's worth investigating, not because we don't like these people, but because we want education to be at its highest form. And it's not just these people, it's everyone moving forward. It's anyone that ever takes this position. When you take that position, I'm sure you take some sort of oath, you take some sort of agreement, and the agreement is important. Like it's an important agreement, and you need integrity. If there's no integrity in these agreements, what's the point of even having them in the first place? And all these people, I'm looking at their faces right now, should be accountable. So, look, guys, the Adelaide Set people, let's do some research on this and see what we can do, because maybe our best way forward is to investigate. Let's investigate all these people and see what they're doing, because it's not good enough that the universities are blocking out academic freedom, not allowing people like Nikolai or others. Apparently there's others who have also been snuffed out. And I'm telling you right now, as a young person, if you're going to have a laboratory, want to do some cool research, why would you go to Flinders when you know that they're just going to they're going to kill your project? Like, you want to do your own cancer vaccine, you want to do your own
Alzheimer's vaccine.
Any vaccine, like it's anything like that. Why would you go to Flinders? Who's going to go to Flinders anymore?
Yeah,
that's the reputation.
There's no security.
Yeah, it's all safe. It's all safe.
It's like we want to kill it, we kill it. That's what they've told us. It's at our discretion.
Yeah.
Now, are they communicating it to the board, to the council?
Yeah. Do they know what's...
Or are they completely oblivious?
Well, maybe these guys...
Maybe your Adelaide Sec could write to all of those councils saying, are you really aware of what your chancellor and your vice chancellor is Colin Sterling, he's on the board. Yeah. But is he telling them what's really happening?
This guy, this professor...
I find it hard to believe that he is.
I don't feel like this young kid here is not what's going on. I don't think she... Honestly, look at him.
And you feel sorry for them.
I do.
But it's like company boards where the whole company board has been prosecuted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they said, but we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah,
they
said, bad, mate.
No,
you took your will.
It doesn't exonerate you.
Yeah.
You go down with all the others. So that's would be my concern, that a lot of these people don't know the responsibility.
So what's the
and the consequences?
So what's the policy being broken though, for people to know, for me to know, and for people? What do you think in your opinion?
So the university are deliberately targeting and victimizing individuals for exercising their rights of academic free speech. So and we have that. We have the evidence of that.
It's just
it's overwhelming.
So academic free speech is being
targeted. And there's a policy. It's called the corruption policy.
Yeah.
That says that is unacceptable by the university, and the council are not enforcing their own corruption policy, right? Yep. And that, I would argue, is not fair or honest. And if it's not fair or honest, then you can look up the Flinders University Act. Yeah. Oh no, it's public. If you look up academic freedom policy, their fraud and corruption prevention control policy is saying that you can't target people.
1 second,
and you have to have ethical.
Let me go here. Here. This one, yeah, okay, here, and then I can go like this. I can go. Okay, there we go. So where is it?
So I think if you just look at the top sentence, so it's a clear statement to staff that fraud, corruption, misconduct, or maladministration is not acceptable and will not be tolerated. Now, if the council is aware that is happening and are tolerating it, they have broken the requirement that they act fairly and honestly.
Misconduct. So I guess these are all down to definitions and of like what is misconduct, what is corruption, what is maladministration.
Well, each of them have a definition.
Yeah. And their own
lawyers have been through this at an intimate detail, and they've got about 200 breaches.
And how come these
that they've identified?
How come these council members haven't been contacted individually and alerted of their potential misconduct?
Well, because the communication normally goes through the Chancellor, John Hood, who's the chair of the board.
Yep.
And that's the end of it. You hear nothing further.
Okay,
so there is no evidence that any of these matters have actually been brought to the board's attention. So they may be blissfully ignorant. How do we know?
Well, it's time, guys. Let's unlock our inner lefty. Let's unlock our inner wokey. Let's get woke. Let's go get these people alerted that they might be doing something wrong. They might not even know. I bet you most of these people don't even know they're doing something wrong. That's what I hope to think, and that maybe as kind citizens, it's our duty as citizens to tell these people that they might potentially be doing misconduct, and they might be doing some stuff they don't want to do. Maybe they should know. Maybe we should tell them. Adelaide set people, we should tell them. Maybe.
Well, because again, I mean, we all want a fair civil society, and none of us want to see people, innocently fall into disrepute or
accident. Yeah,
but this is a reality that's happening. I mean, I've got terminal cancer patients getting civil rights lawyers to write to John Hood. I can show you the letter. It went to him last week. He hasn't responded. Right.
Do you have the? Can we? Is the letter allowed to be public?
Yes. Yeah, it's a public letter.
Oh, okay. Is it online now?
It's online. So.
What do I write?
So it.
It's on a website or.
So I'm just trying to think. The link is on. Is it? I'm not very good with social media.
That's all right. Do you remember a website or because I could just Google it?
It was where do people put blogs on the web? It's a program. Slack or no, not Slack. Stack or where's Robert Malone and people?
Signal?
No, not Signal.
A letter to that was 2016. Look,
but anyway,
we can't find it. We'll find the letter.
Link. I can send you the link tonight when I get home. But here is a civil rights lawyer in New South Wales. This is his whole specialty, who's informed that the University Council that they're potentially in breach of international obligations under human rights.
Okay.
Right? In what they're doing and in trying to essentially undermine and prevent us being able to conduct the cancer trial.
Okay.
Right? I mean, this is serious. This is not just, breaking national laws.
Yeah.
You've potentially got Flinders University Council breaking international laws of civil rights. Do you know how embarrassing that will be for South Australia if that goes to court?
And we allowed
and the court actually finds that they're not just breaching, their own policies and state and national laws, but they're breaking international laws of civil rights, depriving cancer patients of treatment.
Yeah, that's really
bad. That is about. I mean, that's as extreme as you go before you hit Nuremberg.
That's definitely misconduct.
And do these guys sitting on that university board know what's being done in their name?
Yeah.
Again, I'm a clinician. I understand how low this goes.
Yeah.
This is like the dirtiest of the dirty. I cannot believe that those innocent looking individuals have been told any of this is going on, or if they have, they've been told a completely distorted, view of it that doesn't reflect the truth.
So are we allowed to speak about this stuff publicly? Like, is there any issue of you speaking about this if you're in the middle of it? Like, does it matter like what you say publicly? Like, or are you allowed to just?
Well, no, as long as it's the truth.
Yeah.
And as long as you're not, defaming someone. And we're not. I mean, we're just saying that the university board do not seem to be aware of the fact that civil rights lawyers are writing to the council saying, we are, serious lawyers.
you'd be alerted.
We've looked at this. We're acting for cancer patients. You're compromising their care, and we believe you are potentially breaking, national and international civil rights laws.
Yeah.
That's separate to my case. That this is a case being brought by the cancer patients themselves.
So first off, Mr. John Hood needs to be alerted.
And John Hood knows he's had many communications from multiple lawyers.
And he's responded?
No.
Okay, so with no response from so Mr. John hasn't responded. So now it's our job as the people to force his response, which we will. We will do that with all our might, because that's what we built this platform for 11 years to do, to do this. And then all these council members, if Mr. John has not alerted these people that they might be doing some bad things accidentally or purposely, then they also need to be alerted. All of them. Yep. It's not fair on these people. This guy, allegedly and potentially, may be putting these people at risk, and he might not even know he's doing it.
Well, we don't. As I say, we don't know. It's just,
we don't know.
It's just silence. You know what I mean? Like they refuse to communicate.
Yeah.
You try to engage and say, look, let's sit down and have a meeting.
Yeah, just a chit chat.
Nothing.
Just a chat.
No, all we get back is messages through the lawyers. No, we're intent on destroying everything and anything of this nature, and we're making no further comment.
Okay.
So, that's what's coming back. So we would love to get
Mr. John
a
Hood,
proper response.
It's our duty at the Adelaide set to inform you here live that we will be having some chats going forward, and you're going to have tens of thousands of people to answer to, because these people are going to be very happy about this, and because you potentially might be doing nothing wrong, but even if you're not doing anything wrong, that's good. Hopefully you're not doing anything wrong. And if there is an error, then it's up to us to have a chat and figure it out, because
there's a miscommunication going.
Yeah, miscommunication.
Let's be honest.
We've got to look after Mr. John Hood.
Mostly would anyone try to harm terminal cancer patients? You'd hope not.
No.
Not in South Australia.
Not intentionally.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So there has to be gross miscommunication. Now, we've been providing, lots of information, trying to bring this to the attention of the council in the hope the council will intervene and sort out whatever the problem is within Flinders University. And they're refusing to do so. They have taken no action. We've got no response from the council. Do you know what I mean? Just deathly silence and threats through lawyers to our lawyers saying, no, we're pushing forward. This destruction of Nick's research is that's our agenda. That's what we're pushing forward with.
Okay.
So give us an explanation.
Yeah.
And don't give us the trite explanation. Oh, Nick wasn't contributing enough to Flinders University.
Yeah. Is that what they've been saying?
That is all they'll say is, the
contribution.
He hasn't brought in $1 billion. He hasn't,
Okay.
got 5 Nobel Prizes. But I don't see anyone else at Flinders University, and they don't even pay me. I'm an honorary professor at Flinders University, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to suggest I should be doing more than the Vice Chancellor, who's paid millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
It's ludicrous.
It is.
It's not the real answer, the reason. We know that. We have evidence from the university under FOI. It's not the real reason. So stop lying, because that's a blatant lie when you have evidence on paper. That's not the reason. Do you know what I mean? It can't be.
Yeah.
So there's another reason. We know the reason, which is to silence academic freedom. They don't like the fact that I have a voice.
That's really annoying.
Right? But that's in breach of their policy, so they can't say it.
Yeah, well, we have the policy.
But the problem is, if they don't enforce the policy, they themselves are breaking the university's policy.
Yeah. Okay.
So they need to be held accountable. They have to follow their policies, and ultimately they have to explain their actions to the public, because they're happy to play games, right?
Yeah.
And as I say, put out mischievous, I would say, answers or non-answers or deceptive answers that are not the truth. But it's only the public that can demand the truth, explain their actions.
Well, the bottom line is a conversation needs to be had regardless. Even like whatever party is wrong or right, it doesn't matter who's wrong or right. What matters is that the conversation is had in the first place. That's the whole point of freedom in the first place, or even just communication. That's the whole point of being able to talk. Like if I've done something wrong or right, then it's okay for me and my friends to discuss it, because then there's a conversation to be had, and then there's learnings to be had for all parties involved. That's what life is. It's about talking, growing, learning, wrongs, rights, yeses, nos. It's all part of the thing that builds society up. So if there's just going to be a one-way street, like, no, we can't, no, we're not going to say anything, no response to cancer treatments or Alzheimer's vaccines, no, we're not going to talk about it all. You can't ignore these things. They're going to have to. No. They have to come in.
No, and that's all we're asking for is answers.
Yeah.
And again, we're not suggesting any impropriety by any individual.
Yeah.
Right? But we think there's something terribly wrong going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously horrible miscommunication.
Yeah.
And we believe the people who might ultimately suffer are probably the innocent ones. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're the ones who don't even know what's going on. So I guess all we're trying to do is say, how do we let these people know that there's another side to this story? Whatever they're hearing is obviously can't be right and can't be true, because if they heard the truth, they'd be horrified. As I think
at least
any of your listeners
horrified
would.
or just want to even investigate what potentially could be the issue.
Exactly. Yeah, wouldn't you look into it? Like, John, what is he looking into it?
Yeah, he's putting. The council members need to be They need to look into it. Like, it's their life. It's literally their life to look into. It's up to them. Yeah, anyways,
so that's all we're asking for is a proper investigation, and whether that needs to be done. I don't think they can do it internally. I don't think
it needs to be done by an independent board or something.
Well, then you need, the ombudsman or Office of Public Integrity, or you need the Auditor General. Someone needs to come in and do a full and proper investigation, get to the bottom of it
for everyone,
and fix the problems. And I think it's in our interest, it's in John Hood's interest, it's
the council's interest,
it's in the students' interest at Flinders University. But there is something horribly wrong.
Yeah,
and that's all we're saying is, whether it's miscommunication or something else, it isn't going to be doing any favours to the university, to South Australia generally, to the reputation of research in Australia, right? It has to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed tomorrow. It isn't something, we'll put it off till next year or the next decade. This is an immediate problem that Flinders has to address, admit that there's a need for an inquiry, and proceed to get to the bottom of what's been going on.
Well, there you go. Well, Nick, it's been around 2 hours, so I'm going to let you have a closing statement. If there's something else you want to share with the followers, maybe an update of something else of some other nature before I let you go. And then, we're going to have more chats about other matters. But is there anything else you would like to say to everyone before I let you go? And obviously Nick is going to be, he's I consider him as like a regular guest here on the Adelaide set, and I want the Adelaide set.
Well, we want to hear how your followers have what they've achieved maybe in a week or so, because this is a dynamic, fast-moving process. Unfortunately, it takes 20 years to build research, and it takes a few weeks to destroy it.
That's right.
And they don't understand that, but it happens so fast that it all unravels. So we really only have a few weeks of life left in reality.
Yeah.
We're on the final breath.
Final countdown.
But, I don't feel any... People ask me, do I feel ill will against those who have done all of this? And in truth, no. I mean, I like to think people, might do bad things, but they're just misguided. That we all, have souls.
It's incompetence. It's basically incompetence.
That maybe, if any of us have failed, it's because we failed to communicate adequately. So hence why we're reaching out. We're trying to, and we keep saying, we'll sit down with you. We're not. It's like they refuse to meet. They think you're a devil.
Yeah.
But in reality, I mean, my team are the sweetest team of people, right?
Yeah.
And yet they'll refuse to meet even with them, as if they're some ogres that are going to bite their heads off.
Yeah.
And
some scary guys.
These are very passive scientists. It's completely unacceptable to have a problem of this size that's affecting the whole state, right?
Yeah.
That's in the media, and they will not sit down for a cup of coffee to even try to find is there some middle ground, is there something that's been miscommunicated. So the fact they sit in their ivory towers and won't have that off the record cup of coffee or conversation, I find that extraordinary. But the offer is out there. If John Hood wants to have a cup of coffee off the record with me, or
the team,
or with the team and me not there,
or the patients,
he's more than welcome. And I'd be very disappointed if he doesn't take that up, if he really has the interests of Flinders University at heart, which I don't know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But that's what I can offer, is that he'll have a very civil, intelligent conversation if he chooses to make himself available to sit down and just have a chat.
Yeah.
Maybe he could do it in, even...
Well, I'm looking at this guy.
Probably wouldn't want to go on a blog.
Well, I mean, this guy, he's obviously, like, he's Seymour College, like, he's a private school kind of boy, Adelaide Football Club, Food Bank SA, like, this guy's part of that elite kind of crowd. So, I mean, that's another thing. So,
maybe I'm not elite enough to sit down to have a cup of coffee with him.
Maybe he needs a St. Peter's boy to have a chat with him. But your boys...
My boys are all at St. Peter's. But he wasn't a St. Peter's boy, was he?
I don't know. I don't think so. But he does dabble. Like, Mr. John Hood here is very into that kind of crowd, it looks like.
Yes. Maybe I'm not... I don't play football, so maybe that's...
that's all right. Well... he's met the Saints boys are here now, so maybe it's our turn to go here. But okay. Well, Nick, I'll let you talk. Fire him. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and
we disclaim any names mentioned.
Well, everything we do is for fun and to talk and philosophy and life and comedy and all of it. We're artists at the end of the day. We're scientists and artists. So, everything we say is with love for educational purposes and to explore. Like, I'm personally a very curious person, and I want to know what's going on in my own state with professors, with the universities. Like, 1 week I had a Rhodes Scholar on. Last week I had a Rhodes Scholar on. Now I've got Nikolai on. Like, we got all the academics here. This my grandma's room is now the Pythagoras' cave, apparently. So we're gonna, as long as I don't get crucified, we'll be okay. That's the main thing, because that tends to happen.
All right, let's see what your followers can do.
They can do some stuff.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys. I'm gonna turn that one off.
Guys.